AMD's upcoming monster GPU is set to obliterate Nvidia's entire pricing model. But before I get to that, no one's buying this GPU, and it's great news, and Nvidia is preparing a surprise desktop release. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Okay, it's news time, and it's been a full day since AMD officially released their new RX 9060 XT, and we've actually learned a couple interesting things since it went on sale. And if you're interested in picking one up, I'll have some affiliate links down in the description below. They don't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. So the first thing we learned is that no one's buying 8GB GPUs. As you can see right down here, there are multiple 8GB cards that are still available at MSRP. And to that, all I can say is to keep it up. As the consumer, we have the biggest power out there, our wallet. And if you don't buy something, manufacturers will quit making it. So fantastic job there. With that said, there are still some 16GB models at least around MSRP. For example, this one right here at $369.99. Either way, clearly AMD stocked up for this release, and it's definitely nice to see. But even if the 16GB parts sell out, don't be tempted with an 8GB variant. At that point, I'd say just to buy used. So while the 9060 XT does bring us a reasonably priced GPU, things are still seriously too high in a ton of segments. So if you're hoping to buy a card without selling your car, you've got to check out today's sponsor, Jawa, the online marketplace that was built by gamers specifically for gamers like you and me. Their entire goal is to put the market back into the hands of gamers. And they actually have some awesome deals on things like GPUs right now, like this 3050 for just $180, or this RX 580 for just $65. And that's not all they offer. Besides other components like CPUs, memory, all of that, they also have fully pre-built PCs from boutique sellers. So if you don't want to build your own PC, you can save money there as well. Plus, if you're worried about getting scammed by a seller, don't be. Simply look for the verified seller badge, which lets you know that Jawa has personally vetted the seller themselves. So stop paying absurd prices for your PC components and visit Jawa by clicking my link down in the description below. And next up for today, Nvidia is preparing a pretty shocking release on desktop. As you can see right down here, we are looking at the RTX 5050. And that's of course surprising because Nvidia skipped the 50 variant with their last gen part, opting to only release it on notebooks. Not to mention the fact that AMD's been creeping up on lower end GPUs with their APUs. But there is still some wiggle room there, I guess, because it looks like Nvidia is in fact planning to release a lower end card. Of course, given how disappointing the 5060 has been, I didn't think you could get much lower, but I guess Nvidia decided to give it a shot, and it does not look good. As you can see here, we have some leaked specs, and according to this, the GPU that it's based on is the GB207 card, and right off the bat, you can see that it has a massive drop in cores. It's actually right at 33%, so this is definitely set to be a pretty big drop in terms of performance. And now I will go ahead and say that it does say 8GB of GDDR6, but according to a new report from Bench Life, it says that Nvidia is now considering switching to GDDR7 memory for the 5050, just as they did for the mobile version. So we're not really sure if it's going to have GDDR6 or GDDR7, but it does sound like they're perhaps leaning more towards the newer memory. Then obviously it comes with a 128-bit bus, and the TDP is at just 130 watts. Now, I can obviously understand someone wanting to buy a GPU like this, but to be honest, the 5060 wasn't all that great already, so I don't know how well this will be received. With that said, at least it is 8GB without a 6GB model. Don't forget that the 3050 offered both an 8GB and 6GB variant, but that was also 2 generations back. What's wild is that if this is right, Nvidia is planning to release it next month. So while the specs aren't exactly all that impressive, we won't have to wait long to find out. And lastly for today, the RX 9090 XT is set to obliterate Nvidia. Specifically, it could destroy their pricing structure. As many of you know, I recently went over a leak from Moore's Law is Dead that claims AMD is working on a monster new GPU, potentially set for release later this year. We don't know if it's the 9090 XT, 9080 XT, or what, but it's definitely more powerful than the 9070 XT. If you remember, he claims that we're talking not only a massive clock increase over the 9070 XT, but even up to 32 gigabytes of GDDR7. And yes, you heard me right, not GDDR6, but GDDR7. This obviously made it clear that AMD's upcoming GPU or GPUs aren't just some bin 9070 XTs. Instead, they're a whole new GPU altogether. And in a new video from Moore's Law is Dead, he essentially confirms just that. But here's the thing. If this is true, while it would mean more expensive memory, the actual number of GPU cores remain the same, meaning they shouldn't need more silicon to do it. And ultimately, as long as the die size remains the same, it shouldn't cost much more than the 9070 XT. And don't forget that according to this, the 9090 XT is an average of 28% faster, yet the 5080 is only around 17% faster than the 9070 XT, meaning this could seriously challenge not only the 5080, but potentially even the 5080 Super. And that could be a massive impact on the market. Because if AMD actually pulls this off, they have the opportunity to launch a 5080 and above level card for $800, maybe even $700, depending on what all they have to do to this new GPU, especially if they end up only needing 16 gigabytes of GDDR7. Don't forget that there is a possibility there, though that could be a different variant. Obviously, the 32 gigabytes of newer memory would add a decent bit of cost, but it shouldn't be anywhere near $900 and especially not the 5080's $1,000. Meaning, if AMD pulls this off, they could affect the entire GPU market. It could even affect the 5090, given it would be even a worse value proposition than it is now. Of course, with all of that said, this is something that AMD's only testing right now, so we don't know for sure if it'll even be released. But given the fact that we actually have performance numbers, it's clear that they're pretty far along. So while that does it for today, are you pumped for a new monster AMD GPU? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And as always, have a great day.